Welcome to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast, where we explore personal, professional, and financial success stories of top achievers. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome to Pathways to Prosperity for Entrepreneurs, the podcast where we celebrate visionaries turning their passions into impactful ventures. I'm Terrence Shabillion, and today we are here with Aaron Zelinskas and Ultraliminal. Hey, how's it going today, Aaron?
Doing well. How are you doing today, Terrence?
Awesome. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us today. Could you give us a quick snapshot of your business right now, Aaron?
Sure. Ultraliminal is a business solutions company. We focus on the nonprofit market space. And what we really look to do is to build solutions with companies, particularly nonprofits, at their pain points, which a lot of it is outreach and then on raising money. And so we look at it from a person-to-person kind of space where we want to increase agency inside the organization so people can build solutions efficiently and then work through that into their systems and processes to have them have better outreach with their donors, their volunteers, corporate sponsors, all those things, so that they can continue to be super awesome and provide the services they want to provide to the public.
Awesome. I'm not currently in the not-for-profit space, but I do look forward to speaking to you in the future about that as we continue to grow our assisted living business. We do want to open a not-for-profit section to be able to help more people. So I'm glad to meet you, and I appreciate what you do for sure.
Well, thanks. No, I'd be happy to talk about it. I mean, it's something where one of the amazing things with what we do is I just do a lot of research on trying to find organizations to reach out to through some of our processes with our general marketing. But it's a, people we'll say, bummed out about the news a bit, but it's something where when you're spending your day working through, we'll say varying lists from varying states on their nonprofits that they have, and you see the thousands and thousands of nonprofits, in any county, let alone like across the state, like or other states. It warms your heart to see that there's that many people who are really trying to, at their scale, have a positive impact in their community. So,
Absolutely. The give back is the important part as you start to have any level of success. At least that's the way I feel.
no, agreed. Definitely. Yep.
This is the part of the question where I usually ask, there's a lot of competition in your space, but I'm not sure that there is. So I'll ask that. At the same time, I'll ask, what maybe sets you apart, or, why should people that are running nonprofits look for you in particular? Let's start with that one.
So folks would want to look for us in particular because of the experience we bring to the space. Myself personally, I've been the president of a 501c3 for the last about 13 years. State Land Conservation Association, we established it to help fund and work with the sister organization that's actually in the Islands of Honduras. If you've ever taken a cruise down to the Bahamas and you go to the the Western Caribbean, and you go to Honduras, you probably stopped at Mahogany Bay or Coxon Hole, which is on the island of Roatan. And so the parent organization is there for that nonprofit for the Honduran side. And there's chapters in both the Utila and Guanaja, which are their sister islands. And so in that, I learned a lot about working with inside of nonprofit space and like just organization from like the ground level, like, hey, we're out dealing with volunteers, to doing program development, to running projects, and then working with teams on systems and protocols and all those things from the scientific side of the work, all the way through to, hey, we're basically, because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you're not in business. So the basic business functions of running a business, where it's like, hey, are you communicating? Are you following up? Are you tracking things properly? All these different little pieces that go along with running a business, but you just happen to be nonprofit. So I did a lot of that. And then my business partner, his wife has also worked in the nonprofit space for quite some time, about 10 years as well. And just conversations with her on the organizations she's worked with. And, they're good organizations, they're good people, but they still have the same kind of issues where there's issues with operations, there's issues with funding, there's issues with communication, systems, all those kind of things. And so for us, like, we're very intimately aware of the challenges that nonprofits have, not only on the financial side, but then also on the operational side, particularly when you have operations that are, say, heavily based around like having good volunteers or utilizing volunteers effectively. And that's a lot of where we step in, because one of our core competencies for us is also leadership development. We've done a lot of in-house leadership development programs because we think that most people actually really want to be great at their jobs, and they also want to have some agency. They want to be leaders because they can have some impact. And so we work with them on understanding, like, whether it's, you call it a floor sweep or like the chief of the board, like everybody has a sphere of influence inside of an organization. So it's getting them to understand what that really is and what kind of agency they have in those interactions, And then from there, how to, if there's damage there, how to repair that to start building that trust back. But then how to really work on facilitating operations in a way that we want, or they would want to see as their organization. So everybody wants to have that, Delta Force, SEAL Team 6 mentality, like, no, we're super awesome, we're cool, we just go. And it's like, okay, great. But do you have the pieces in place to make sure your team can do that? Is everybody communicating? Does everybody have the resourcing to do that? Like, a lot of pieces that come into play when you're trying to do persistent execution. If you haven't done those things, those competencies aren't there, those capabilities aren't there, you're going to trip over your own feet. And so that's where we can come in and really help with that, where we really look at it, like I said, from an individual personal basis, we start there. And then from there, we build from that individual, we start building out to the teams and the greater organization, and also with their systems too, where it's like, hey, you have systems that work, great. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. But if your systems have some challenges, then let's reevaluate what we're doing here. And if we need to fix some things, we can fix some things. We're not trying to overcharge, not trying to like bully people around. It's more of like, nope, we just want you guys to be awesome and the best awesome you can be. And we're here to come in and try to take the rough edges off, smooth things out where they need to be smooth. If we do need to do an overhaul, do it in a cost-effective manner to where you're not wasting time and dollars. It's really a solid solution for you and not for anybody else. That makes sense.
Awesome. Well, I probably going to go backwards here with this question a little bit. Just for people that may not understand or know, could you explain to us what a not-for-profit is, in as well as why maybe someone would open a not-for-profit?
So not-for-profit is basically an organization where you're looking to do like a public good or service. Generally, is which one do I want to think of it as. And so, for instance, like with the one that I work at or that I help, Valley Conservation Association, its primary function is environmental conservation. And so we approach that from several different areas, so education, community development, research and monitoring, and then protection. And so, like, you're not produced, so your services you're providing are to the community at large. It's not so much a return on investment kind of thing. We're like, hey, we're selling this service, we get a profit back, or we're doing this thing to create, IP to sell. Your IP is you're just providing public good. And so in that, generally, you're looking to get donations to come in on that. And so,
Okay.
or some sort of corporate sponsorship.
Awesome. I assume that there's benefits on the backside of that as well, of being a not-for-profit, tax, other things, government assistance. I mean,
Yeah,
is
there's
that
yeah. So
another reason why you consider that? Sorry.
Depending on the type of nonprofit they are, yeah, there's bigger pockets of money you could go for grant wise or for donation, or grant wise and then corporate sponsors. But grant wise, it depends on what you're doing, and then also so in the space, like, or if you're in healthcare and other areas, like there's bigger programs or money that you can get into. But it's really not so much for the money; it's more for your focus is more on the impact that you're trying to have, and that's really kind of the focus on that. So if you're looking more for if you're looking more for an outcome-based work, that's more that outcome-based. Since it's like you're impacting the community, would be more of that kind of a nature as opposed to a revenue generating thing.
Okay. Okay. So from that side, and I'm sorry, the reason why I asked that question is just that, especially with people who are looking to donate and be involved in that avenue, are there tax benefits for them as well as being able as donating to these types of structures?
Yeah, so donating depending on how much you're going to donate, there's some tax benefit, but from the standard deduction, I think now how they changed it in the IRS code, there's not like if you're doing a monthly small donation, like there's not really a full lot in itemization you're going to get back off of that. But like if you're doing the larger stuff, that's a little bit different. But
Okay.
but yeah, so usually it's just for the good, and the organizations need it. Like if there's pick your cause that you want to donate to, and if you can send them $5 a month, $10 a month, I mean, they'll be ecstatic. And if they have events that are going on, show up and help if you can. Just volunteer the time once a month or once a week, whatever you can do, and that goes a long way, because it's a lot of nonprofits. They don't have a ton, most of them. The staff's minimal, and they're really trying to do good work and services. And so if you have something that's a cause you like and enjoy, if you just Google them, you can find them pretty easily. And most of them they're very friendly. They're very nice. They just want it's just like anybody else is excited about their work. They're super excited. And they want to share.
Okay.
They want to demonstrate. They want you to be a part of that, have that excitement. So
Okay.
the best way to help is just donate if you can, and then if you can't, then volunteer. Do both. That's the best.
Okay. If someone listening to us right now had a passion project or something that they felt that starting a nonprofit be good for, how would you suggest they go about starting that or getting educated or whatever it may be to get that process started?
So to start that process, a big thing would be like anything else, like your strategic plan, right? So you'd want to sit down and kind of run a business plan out of what you expect to do with this nonprofit. And the big thing with that being is that like it's still a business. Like it still has to be able to produce income, which is whether it's through donors or through corporate sponsorships or through grants. Like you need to have a good working understanding of like what you're trying to actually do and then what the funding mechanisms look like for that. And so if you're like, oh, I'm going to do this, it can get grant money. Okay, well, have you written grants before? Or do you need to hire a grant writer? How many grants are available? What's the cycle rate look like on grants per, how many grants per year do you need for the projects you're going for? Or how many donors do you need to make this viable to do different things? So a lot of it's really doing the same kind of research you would do for creating a business. You do the same thing for doing a nonprofit, but even more so because like your funding opportunities they're different, and so it's really understanding in those spaces. It's like, hey, like, we're going to go a lot of our donors from social media, so we're going to do all these posts, and it's like, okay, well, who's creating content, who's posting them every day, who's doing all the follow-ups, who's reaching out to corporate, who's like, you need to kind of have a structure of what that looks like because like none of that's actually free. It costs time. And in that, you'll start figuring out like, well, is this really worth me pushing this? Or maybe there's another nonprofit that I can find that's similar to what I think is great. How did they set their stuff up? How do I, do iterations without wasting, resources that I don't have to waste to make this successful. So I would do that.
Okay.
And then also there's a number of organizations that have good, I want to say that the one that we used when we set up the 501c3 originally was called the Foundation Group. And they've got a lot of really good resources on their website about setting up nonprofits, questions to ask, and kind of like a workflow of like what to work through in that regard. Because each nonprofit is obviously its own unique thing. And then depending on the state you're in, like there's different rules on different things. So
Okay. Um, so you mentioned about funding. Can you set up businesses as an example? We're in the assisted living space that are not for profit, and what does that look like? Not necessarily depending upon outside money to come in, but the business itself is a not for profit. What would something like that look like?
So when you do that, it's just like when you go on to say like you go on going like LegalZoom and you set up a business. Setting up a nonprofit, it's been a while since I've done that. Like from that side of it, we usually don't help people set those things up. I did it 10 years ago when we set up the one for the 501c3 here. But basically, like it was a much larger application to actually we worked with the foundation group actually to do that. But it was a bit more involved than just like your standard like LLC because you're actually a bit the corporation and you file for your 501c3. And so there's some requirements that you have to meet for that and what you're trying to do. And then have to be able to demonstrate those things to the IRS.
Okay.
So it's not super crazy, but you do have to, it's a bit more involved than just like jumping on LegalZoom and like, boom, boom, boom. Okay, cool. We're good.
Okay.
So,
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, yeah, as people, especially like ourselves, are looking to be able to expand what we do and to help more people, it's a very big learning curve for sure.
yeah.
What is one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome in your career, Aaron?
So the biggest challenge for me overcoming in my career was actually, I'd say, well, everybody says like getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. That's always number one, right? But like, it's something where it's like, like, I think the biggest challenge, and probably everybody else has something similar where it's like it's kind of getting out of your own way in a bit, like, and really evaluating, like, when you're looking every day at like what you're doing in your business, like, are you really moving the ball forward? And it can be something where you think like, oh yeah, like this is actually really important. It moves the ball forward. It does these things, boom, 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 boom. But does it really? Like, what are you really trying to accomplish? And like, is it window dressing? Is it really a need or is it a want? And like, and then really evaluating those things on a day-to-day basis. And so it's just making sure each data, I'm an operations kind of guy. So I'm very much like, hey, like, what do we have? Yes or no? And then it's go. And so it's making sure that I always take the time to like, and I've built it into my mornings and into my days where it's like, hey, stop, assess, look, what's going on? Okay. Is this the path we need to be going, or does today need to shift a little bit? And so I always try to, that's, I would say probably was one of the biggest things. And then just being a small business owner and then understanding like the ups and downs of what that is. You go through like the feast and famine phases, and and it's different than having a steady paycheck every day. And that's one of those things, like if you've never had that experience in your life, then like it's a bit different. It's like, oh, it's like this is what this looks like. It's like, yep. And so then it's just being like, okay, are we doing things right? We are. Are we having good response? Yes. Okay. We just keep plugging that. And so you keep plugging and things work. And it's just being patient and being mindful. And you put good karma out there, good karma comes back. So, and then just learning new systems as you need to. Like in my case, like I was not a huge social media person before all of this. Not that I'm super huge now. But previously, when we very first started, I was doing a lot more into myself, posting on like Instagram and Facebook, and like doing recordings every morning and like putting those and tagging them and all that stuff. And I was like, and that's just not my general personality. So it's like kind of having like more of an introvert. Like if you put me on the shop floor with the work team and say go, like I can run that all day. Or even like with a really big group of people, I can run a town hall, not a problem. But like, hey, take pictures of yourself and talk.
Yeah.
It's like, do what? It's like, and then share that with like everybody and just it's like do no, like sorry, it's not. I mean, yeah, it's yeah. I think for my original Facebook page, like I didn't even create that. The partner I was with then back in the day, like she created that. Like, I was like, Facebook's like, I'm Facebook. It's like, okay, well, let's start. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, like so yeah, that so getting comfortable with that kind of a thing where it's like, okay, like you're going to record things, you're going to post them, you're going to put things out there, and like, and part of it's you start getting more comfortable with it, and then you get used to it, and it's just then it's kind of the fluctuation of what's going on. So like if you have staff that's working with you on that, that's making sure you have deliverables to them and like doing the feedback pieces. It's always interesting things like you leading yourself or a small team gets different depending on what's going on. And then like if the team expands and new people come on, it's like, okay, well, I have to kind of set a little bit and like re-go and train them and fix things. And so it's always just being kind of keeping that beginner's mindset and always just being like, okay, like because I like it's kind of making the space and then it's being like, hey, are we really doing what's important? And then really just like making sure you're checking the boxes because those can get lost pretty quick if you're not paying attention. And you kind of get a product back and you're kind of like, what's this? It's like, well, you said. It's like, oh, okay. No, I see where this went wrong. All right, let's have a conversation. So just that kind of the basic, nothing too crazy.
It sounds like things are going well for you and your business. A lot of our guests are looking towards their future and how they can create passive income streams to enhance or even replace their income. What are some of the things that you're looking at doing for the future of yourself and your family?
So for future myself and my family, what I look at for future revenue opportunities are things that are durable. I'd say particularly because, and this is my own personal philosophy from different things that I kind of been reading and listening to over the years. Everybody knows what's going on with inflation. Everybody knows what's going on in the market. And we know that, market fundamentals are highly disconnected from, we'll say, reality in a lot of ways. When it's always like, oh yeah, the top 7 are controlling the entire S&P 500. It's like, well, that's kind of a problem, guys. Like, yes, it looks great in portfolios, but in real life, like that's a big issue. So my kind of investment philosophy that I've been thinking of and looking into is like looking at different business solutions, or not solutions, but businesses. Yes, I think of things as going from what we currently have to, we'll say, the next 20, 30 years. My outlook, at least anyways, is personal opinion. I think we're going to see a trend line back more towards, we'll say, like almost like World War II, where things were more like people didn't invest in the market. People invested in like their family businesses. People had a number of little things that they worked on and did. And so like in my case, I'm looking at like obviously there's real estate, obviously there's different commodities you can get into, but really it's more real estate based. And then I would say more like other businesses kind of stuff. So like looking at different like say particular franchises that are easy to get into and they kind of just print money. So like obviously Chick-fil-A would be an easy example of that. But stuff like that maybe is a little bit more off the beaten path, where it's like if you're at the mall walking around or you're at other places and you see smaller businesses, like I've seen 6 or 7 of those things and it's always got a line on it. It's like, all right, note self. It's like, and keep notes on that and then think of okay, looking into like what's the requirements for getting into them, what's it would look like cash flow wise, and like understand like how the basics of those businesses work. Is it simple, and so just kind of those kind of things where it's just build a portfolio of smaller businesses that cash flow well, and then use that money to save and build a family trust kind of a thing, and then just keep it all moving and do that.
I love that aspect and everything that you discussed. Most of my guests are an alternative, as they call alternative assets, not the stock market, not give my money to someone as we're taught and let them do with it as they please.
Hmm.
One of the things that always tickles me is that the wealthiest don't invest in their own businesses. They take our money and invest it into real estate, real assets. They invest it into these other things that create streams of income for them, and instead say fund our businesses. So I love speaking to people and hearing that they're looking outside the box, thinking differently. And it's from our side of it, we're definitely deep into the assisted living business, understanding what's going to be happening over the next 30 years here. Is something that's can't be missed from that side. And like you said, Chick-fil-A, the triple nets and those types of things, the lines around the block, I love it. So definitely
Yeah.
appreciate that side of it, and love sharing that with people, getting that aspect out to don't do what everybody else is doing,
Yeah. Well,
Go the
it's
opposite
just,
way of the crowd.
yeah, and it's something where it's like, there's, I think you can take a lot of it to, like, when you look at those like marketplaces that are overseas, the developing markets or markets that are restricted. So like when you look at places like Iran, when you look at places, people don't not have money there. People aren't not buying things and doing things, but people are surviving, maybe not well, but they're figuring it out. I mean, when you have the BRICS country that are figuring out ways to get around the US dollar and some of our currency restriction stuff, like, okay, people find ways to move value, to have money and do stuff. And so it's like, okay, like, well, what's durable? Like, and that's kind of the big thing I keep thinking about is more like what's durable, what's continual, like what can, because like the rest of it, like you just don't know how it's going to go. But if it's
Yeah.
durable, it's fairly simple. It's things that people are going to need to have. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, it's HVAC, it's electric, it's plumbing, it's roofs, it's buildings, it's a
Yep.
machine shop. It's like all these little things where it's like, oh, like, well, who would do that? It's like, yeah, but you buy three or four of those things, it's like, just as it would be, it's Indian zoning gas stations, right? It's like, hey, all the
Hmm.
gas stations and laundry marts, like, well, because people have to buy gas and people have to wash
Yeah.
clothes. And so
Yeah.
like, and it might not be a huge, not might be the biggest ROI in the world, but like, is it steady and consistent? Yes. Why? Because it's on a major intersection. And this, in this part of town, like, that's not going anywhere. Like this will be a major intersection from here until 100 years from now. So like it's you get in and then it just has what it does. It just goes. It works.
Yeah.
And so just
Well,
finding stuff
I
like
love
that
that
where
you
it's
even mentioned that the ROI is usually not the biggest. It's the alternative assets that usually do have the bigger returns than the stock markets and the more stable returns.
mhm.
Like you said, that gas station, it doesn't sound as pretty as the stock market last year made 30%, but the next year when the stock market loses 40%, I've
Oh
made
yeah.
stable returns at 12% fixed. The rule of 72, how long does it take your money to double? Understanding those simple things when, they aren't splashed all over the news. They're not, as I tell people, sexy. So people don't think about it, and it's not easy. You have to do a little diligence and research. And, when you hire the people that tell you where to put your money, they tell you where to put it that makes sense for them instead of due diligence of, what makes sense for you. So, yeah,
Oh yeah.
education, it's always about
Hmm.
educating yourself and finding those avenues that make sense for you and your family and what, allows you to do well with that. So,
Hmm.
um,
Great.
excuse me, Aaron, as we're wrapping up our interview here, what exciting plans or initiatives do you have in the works for the next 6 to 12 months?
We're continuing our outreach with multiple nonprofits, so just trying to get more nonprofits on board with us to work with us on our systems, work with them on their leadership, and really try to help folks do that. So we're trying to close out, another 30 or 40 clients within the next call 6 to 7 months. And then with that, yeah, just working to keep growing and trying to help more people and increase our team because we like being a big family. So it's something where we like to bring people on board, train them up, and our biggest goal is for our staff is to try to work with them to be with us to a certain point, but when they hit like we'll call it their peak, their zenith point, we'll say, like it's there's a really good line from it was on Chef's Table. It was with it was the Francis Malman one. And he's the guy who's the chef from Argentina. He's like the big romantic. But he talks about like when you have staff, like you want to train them up to a certain point, but when you two are at your best, that's when you have to let them go because if you
Yeah.
don't, then, like they'll stop growing and they'll stop these things. And so our big thing that we always thought of is like the business is the academy of excellence. Like whether somebody works for you for an internship or they just work for you for a 90-day probationary period, like they should come into your organization and be like, wow, this is like the best place I ever worked with my wife. I learned all these skills. They worked with me on these different things. And so with us and our staff, we try to work with them on those business techniques, on thinking about persistent execution, how to set things up, how to work with people, and then have them thinking about like, hey, what's your 5-year plan? What are you thinking in 10 years? What do you want to do with your life? Because like maybe you don't want to be a cold caller or cold email for for your entire career. Maybe you do. That's up to you. But if not, you might want to open up your own business. Maybe you don't want to do SEO for us for forever. Maybe you want to do SEO for yourself, or you want to do, set up a marketing agency, or you want to do these different things. Like, how do we take you from your point A to your point B to get you where you want to be, where you can be successful and be awesome? And so that's kind of one of our big things that we're always looking forward to, is really trying to help our staff grow and help them do awesome things. And then, just keep putting it back out to the community to try to keep helping people and do good things.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. And you have a lot of synergies with our businesses, and always trying to help people to be better, if that's what they want. One of the things I have learned is that, you have to let people want it. If you want it more than they do, they don't tend to stick around too long. But finding that level that, satisfies them, and what, as we say in this podcast, what success looks like to them. And if I can help you along the way, and along the way doesn't include me, then, thanks for letting me be a part of your journey. And, how can I help you get to where you want to be? So I appreciate speaking to, seeing, and meeting other people that, live their life in that way, and always trying to help people do a little better.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is Albert Schweitzer, "My life is my argument." That was one of my favorites. I saw that one time and I was like, oh, I love that. Jot that down. It's like, cause it really just, it just hits, it's short and it's sweet. And it's like, and it really does. It's like, yeah, like that should be, should be always clear as day. So it's always great meeting people who think that way and use.
Yep. All right, Aaron. Well, I appreciate your time coming on today and sharing some insights and tips with us. If people would like to connect with you, how would they do that?
They can find us we're on LinkedIn, but they also come to our website on ultraliminal.com. So we're there. We have a blog that goes up on there about once a week. And then, we're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So it would just be Ultraliminal. Well, if you go to the website, that's the easiest way to get there, because the tags are a little bit different depending on which one you go to. But
okay.
That's pretty much it.
And how do you spell your website, just so people can find that?
ultraliminal.com. Ultraliminal.com.
Awesome. I appreciate that. And we always just want to make sure people can find you when the time comes. So I appreciate your time again and for being on. It was great, everything you shared with us, and we look forward to see what you're doing in the future.
Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast. Got a success story to share? Visit pathwaystoprosperitypodcast.com/guest and apply today.